Hello everybody and welcome to another video here on Tabletop Life. Today we have the event review that happened this past weekend, the Dreamhack Invitational. You'll see this image, the winners. Congratulations to all of the Art of War members coming out and showing everybody who is boss. A lot of great matches, a lot of great rounds. And, you know, overall amazing spectacle to be a part of an esports event and convention like this. If you are not familiar with what went on, we had a 4-team invitational, Team USA, Art of War, Pro Tabletop, and United Midwest all attend the Dreamhack Dallas event, where we played a round robin style tournament. And yeah, that is that. Getting our feet wet in the Dreamhack and esports side of things. Huge shout out to Dreamhack for, you know, working with us to put this on. It was a very last minute thing that we threw together. And huge shout outs to Away Games for supplying the TO support and the terrain, Tactical Tortoise for streaming the event, and the Army Painter for helping every aspect along the way for what we are doing with the NTL, and allowing us to, you know, put the events on and stream stuff and really start to bring the team stuff to North America. So if you have not been joining us along the way this year so far, the NTL has been putting on some events with partnered TOs across North America. Several events have happened. There's more coming every single month. But we are here today to talk about this invitational a little bit. So let's go over the pairings and kind of what went down. So the first round was USA versus Art of War and Pro Tabletop versus United Midwest. We'll kind of go over the pairings that they had here, and I won't talk as much about the matchups that are not Pro Tabletop, but I could kind of go through what we were expecting and what the turnout was in our rounds, especially to kind of give a little bit more insight on the pairing process and the overall team's format. So Team USA and Art of War, this was a close one, right? Art of War wins this round by one point. The last game to finish was Lennon's game with Sasha, and Lennon was really trying to get a secondary that he could pull out that one last point to make it a draw. Obviously, it never comes down to a single player in this. It's just who is the first or last to finish. And if you're one of the later players to finish, obviously the pressure gets on you a little bit more to try to pull out a win or prevent a loss and so on and so forth. So when we look at this, we got GSC into Death Guard, which is super interesting right there because I would usually say that that's Death Guard favored. So maybe not Quinton's Death Guard list specifically, and we're more akin to our off meta Death Guard list when we run it on our end, because we have a lot more characters and flamers and stuff like that. So I can see with 3 Plague Burst Crawlers not being the ideal thing into GSC. World Eaters into Chaos Demons, he just absolutely ran over Nick. That is what it is. I don't think the demons can really kill the World Eaters fast enough, faster than the World Eaters can kill them. Imperial Knights into Eldar. Quote from Typhus was, yeah, so I haven't played a lot of Eldar, but into Knights specifically, you just kind of high select all and right click delete, and the Knight goes bye-bye. So obviously Eldar has a lot of punch up, a lot of anti-tank in it. USA was first defending Imperial Knights, which kind of puts it in a weaker spot. They might want table pick more so they can move Knights around and they have more lanes of shooting and everything. But if you're going to first defend and there's multiple things like Eldar and this Ultramarines that can just go into Imperial Knights and kind of, you know, punt it to the side, it is what it is. But then they take the Eldar off the table, which opens up potential better matches for the rest of the players. So it's an interesting tactic. They probably were fine with this, and they're like, it's okay, we'll get better matches because we don't have to worry about Eldar on the back end of things. Necrons and Ultramarines, this is generally what you kind of expect out of Ultramarines and Necrons, is in that 10-10, 11-9 one way or other era, so I think that's pretty expected right there. Sasha, 14-6 John Lennon. I would say it's a little unexpected. Getting a 14 into that NIDS list is a little bit on the high side for me, coming from Sisters. I think Sasha's a great player, and he had a really great run at this event. His list is a little bit off meta. Like he doesn't have 30 Arcos. He's leaning into a lot more trash units and stuff like that. So it suited him well, and he had really, really good results, as you'll see here. So he took down Lennon, Naden 13-7, McDougal's GSC, generally in the favor of GSC into Eldar. So this is another one that I'm kind of confused about why GSC didn't beat the Eldar. When we play in paired GSC, we usually look for this match, putting GSC into Eldar. And Naden's list especially, like he has a lot more anti-tank. He's got 3 bikes and he's got 2 Warwalkers, which don't really do too much into GSC over the grand scheme of things. Now he could just be using those to cancel blips, and he could be screening the board really well with all the units he has. But GSC generally has a lot of good punch up into Eldar. But Naden has a lot of units, so that could have, just turned it in his favor a little bit. World Eaters into Blood Angels, Zach and Jack. World Eaters just showing Blood Angels how it is. I don't have enough experience to comment too much on the outcome of that game, how it could be. And then Tau into Goths. This Tau is generally pretty good into the Orc. He was playing like 120 boys. It has a lot of shooting and it can deal with it pretty well. So I think that's on the lower side for Richard, and that potentially can go a lot higher. So Lucas did a really good job getting 9 points in that match. Then we look over to our game with PTT and United Midwest. So what did we do here? So we first defended with Orcs every single round. The way our team comp was a little weird, and Damien was the only one that had like maybe one bad match each time. So what we didn't want him to play into is we didn't want him to play into the Orc mirror because he can't really handle that, which was Pamperine. So they put T-Suns into him. We knew that this was just a good game off the start. T-Suns doesn't really like the pressure that Orcs can bring to the table. And it just turned out in Damien's favor a lot. So a big 16-point win right there. Thomas into Tau. This is another one we were looking for. This is about the prediction we also had on this one. So no surprise there from our end. Thomas's list has a lot of anti-tank in it, and it's just kind of there to play against things like Tau and Knights. Joe into the Blood Angels. This could be really, really sketchy for the Grey Knights, but we had to take the risk because the Blood Angels could be a bad match into a lot of our other armies. So we got him into this and we were like, oh, well, it's fine, Joe, just play your game and go for, as close to a draw as you can. So he held steady with his draw and he got exactly what we needed him to get for this round. 1,000 Suns into CSM. We were expecting initially a win out of our T-Suns into this matchup. Mac thought with the tanks and everything that the CSM had that the pressure wasn't going to be there as much, and he can kind of like outplay and outstand the shooting. Sherwin is a really, really good player. And when I did a check-in with Mac, he basically said, hey, it's going to go pretty bad. He was expecting like 6 to 8 points, and he kind of held on track to that, but we knew it early enough in the round that it was okay. It wasn't really a surprise, but it was a surprise in the pairings because we paired for this to be a win on our part. Jaime had no practice into Horde Orcs, but the Warp Talons have very good profiles generally into the Orcs, and with being able to precision out the characters with the strat if they're on objectives, it allows them to take a lot of the damage out of that. Pamperine had a lot of really good plays of staying on objectives and wrapping tanks and stuff like that. So Jaime was really just trying to get as many points as he could in this. It ended up being a little bit of a harder game than he had predicted. We thought it would maybe be a win. This is a hard mission to go up against the Orcs. It was a priority target. So, we were predicting maybe a 12 out of Jaime. Ended up with a 9, so a little lower. Nick into Necrons. Generally, this is when they shoots for a 10-10, so getting a 8 points is just fine. It's in the realm of okay into that match. He held steady and did his part there. And then Walter into Grey Knights. This was a pretty big win. So he 19-1 their Grey Knights. It was a triple Land Raider build with Dread Knights. Walter's comfortable into this. He predicts 13 points-ish. Then throughout the game, he's like, hey, I think it's going to upswing to 15. And he ends up with a 19. So really, really big win for Walter there, which made up for a lot of the other kind of misestimations. And then sisters into Death Guard. We both had draws on this, and it kind of just held to that. There was a couple sketchy turns where it could have went in the Death Guard's favor really, really fast, but just kind of held steady and kept it in the draw territory. The 30 Plague Marines is hard, especially on priority targets, with the amount of OC that they bring to the table to just stand on objectives and be like, no, thank you. So yeah, we did that. We got the win. Art of War got the win, and then we go into round 2. So round 2, Pro Tabletop versus Art of War. We got the draw here. So we've actually never drawn, never beaten Art of War. Anytime we've played them, they usually dunk on us pretty handedly. So us geeking out the draw here was really, really good for our team, and it was a big win. It was great. So the team overall felt really good about that. And the pairing. So Walter into Death Guard. I don't think Art of War was predicting that this was going to happen. Walter has so many games into like every version of Death Guard and into a lot of different players. So it's one of those games where the confidence that he's going to do good into Death Guard is just there. Maybe not as good as like an 18-2, but like we should be getting a 15-5 out of him in most situations into Death Guard. And if for some reason things go really, really bad, he'll geek out like 13 points, but it usually should never get worse than that when he goes into it. He upticked this match, though, with the 18-2, really, really big in our favor. The Grey Knights into the Tau. This was an unplayed match for us. We thought it could potentially be really good for the Tau. It could also be really good for the Grey Knights if the Tau make a mistake. The Grey Knights profiles go into Tau very well. So Joe was a little unsure, but he knew the match, he knew both of the armies. And so really fast in the round, he basically realized that it could go really bad for him. So he came over and he's like, hey, I'm just going to play it safe, and I'm going to try to play for like a draw-ish scenario, because if I try to push this game at all, I could just get 20-0'd really fast. So he kind of changed his game plan and played for that kind of draw-ish scenario, and he was able to do it. Damien into Jack. Jack pulled that one out 13-7. Turns out World Eaters are good into Orcs, and we will see that kind of trend in this event pretty heavily. Damien did say he made some mistakes of like walking off objectives several times, and that cost a lot of points. So he probably could have kept this closer to a draw if he would have made a couple plays in his favor. But nonetheless, yeah, World Eaters just win that attrition war and that punch up, especially if Angron stands back up. Thousand Suns and Ultramarines. Mac was pretty confident going into this match. He knew how to play it. He had played it several times. So we were expecting a win anywhere between 12 and 16 points. So he landed right in the middle there at the 14 against Kasra. Thomas into Sisters. We played this game a lot. I play, Sisters against Thomas a lot. He was pretty confident in this pairing. He knows the Sisters army. He knows all the tricks it can do, what it can do. There's less Arcos, so it's generally a little less threatening for his style of builds. But yeah, it just did not go his way, and Sasha just wrecked him. So yeah, that was our biggest upset in the pairings right here. We were hoping Thomas was going to get like a 10-12 on this, and if things didn't go his way, like an 8. So we kind of reviewed that game and everything, and we walked it back on some ways he could have scored a bunch of other points. But yeah, it just didn't go in his favor, which it happens. So nothing you can do about it. That's why the rest of the team is there to pick up the slack. Eldar into Nids. This is the biggest of coin flips you could ever imagine. The Vanguard Nids, if they basically go first, this score could be reversed pretty fast. Me and Nick were talking about it yeah, Eldar goes first. We're like, okay, well, it's probably going to be a 20-0. If Nids go first, it's just going to be bad for the Eldar as well, especially with like the D-cannon build. Like, you could just touch all the D-cannons, kill them all on turn 1. It can be really bad. So it's a coin flip that we had to take because it takes Eldar off the table into anybody else. And if that coin flip goes in our favor, then the round just becomes very good for us. So kind of worth it. Nick versus me on the Sisters. This was played on the stream. And yeah, you can watch that game back if you want to see exactly how it went. I felt I made a couple primary mistakes that cost me a couple points, but otherwise it was a pretty good game. Going into Big Demons is generally a pretty tough game. It takes a little bit to like kill all of their trash and then just leave them with big demons. The less trash they have and the more big demons, the easier the game is, because you can kind of just like tie them up and make it to where they can't jump around too much and they can't really kill the Argos fast enough. But when there's a lot of trash and a lot of screening like he had, you got to spend a turn or two killing all that before you can start focusing on the big demons. So really good game. It was a tough one. And then Jaime into McDougal. This is one that we had predicted was going to go just how it went for Jaime, so no surprises there for us. Jaime had played GSC, so he was very familiar with the army. We knew this matchup pretty well, and yeah, he did his part and he got it. Then we go into USA and United Midwest. USA just kind of ran through this round pretty handedly, it seems like. So World Eaters into Orcs again, and that is in World Eaters' favor. Anthony just 20-0'd the Horde Orcs. Tau and Knights, so they first defended with Knights here, and they ended up getting Tau again. This could go in either player's favor pretty quick, depending on who does good or does bad or makes a mistake or how the dice go. So Brian getting the 8, Matt pulling it out with the 12. Lucas Troller, Orcs Horde into Grey Knights. This is, I would say this is a pretty expected outcome from my standpoint. The Dread Knights have a lot of shooting and the Land Raiders have a lot of shooting, but once they get kind of touched by everything, they're just kind of stuck there trying to shoot themselves out. And if they don't roll high on the shots for Flamers, or 5-up invulns are passed, or guys get regrown back by the Orcs, they just kind of tie them up and out OC them and just win on the primary. So it's not ideal for Grey Knights. They don't have enough attacks in combat or anything to really, really push the Orcs off. Lennon into Death Guard. Tyranids were... I don't know enough about this matchup to talk too much about it. Then you've got Blood Angels versus Chaos Space Marines. This one's interesting because we thought that the CSM was like really bad into the Blood Angels and we wanted to avoid it at all costs. So kudos to Ben for playing this for a 10, because I think this can easily go really, really hard in the Blood Angels' favor. Sean played Blood Angels, Eldar 20-0. I mean, they just outrange them. They outmove them. They're faster than them, so they can just kite the Blood Angels and be like, you're never going to touch me, and I'm just going to activate my whole army into you every turn. So totally makes sense. And then GSC into Thousand Suns, 20-0. I'd say this is as expected. The GSC just pick on the T-Suns, and there's nothing you can do about it. Not an ideal pairing. Necrons into Necrons. I don't know enough about the Canoptic Court matchups like mirrors to speak too much about this, because our Necron player plays Awakened, so I'm more familiar with that in the mirror, which we'll talk about in the next round. So yeah, this could go either way, I would assume, and it's, slappy, shooty Necrons on top of each other. I think it's interesting that it's that much in one player's favor. So interesting one that I don't have enough data on to speak on. So yeah, Team USA win that one. We draw with Art of War, and then into the last round. Art of War versus United Midwest. You've got Art of War taking the win, and this solidified, obviously, the tournament for them. GSC into Orcs. 10-10. I think that game can kind of go in either person's favor, because the GSC can kind of just kite the Orcs the whole time and just obliterate them. So I think it's more in the GSC's favor than the Orcs' favor. So I would say like kudos to Pamprine for playing this to a 10 and not just getting a 5. Then you've got Ultramarines into CSM. This can go either way. There's a lot of tanks in the CSM. He has a lot of anti-tank. This very much could flip the other way. Neither player in this match I don't think is going to ever get shut out. And I would say it's kind of like a 12-8 one way or the other, depending on just how the game is turning out. Typhus, Eldar into Grey Knights, 11-9. Seems good. I mean, this is a game that could be very, very bad for Eldar. If you're a Grey Knights player and you just drop in and you just kill 2 D cannons with a 3-inch strike, then it starts to go in your favor a lot. I heard in this game that on turn 1, one single D cannon platform did 16 damage to the Land Raider and just 100 to 0'd it. So obviously when you get upswings like that, it's definitely good for you as the Eldar player. But 11-9, that's really good for the Grey Knights player. Keeping it at a 9, knowing that on turn 1 a Land Raider died. And the Eldar player winning and getting 11 is very good because this could go very bad for Eldar. So it's kind of like a knife's edge thing where it can either army in this one can just swing pretty hard one way or the other. Then you've got Chaos Demons into T-Suns. T-Suns should wreck Chaos Demons. So Nick taking the win on this one. Big kudos to him on that. T-Suns should just pick up these demons every single turn without really having to lose anything in response. So they could just be unfamiliarity with the matchup or something like that. But our T-Suns player was looking for this match. Sisters into Blood Angels, I'd say this is pretty much what I would expect. I think that 17 is on the high side into the Blood Angels. But Sisters into Blood Angels is definitely favored into the Sisters. This is a match that I wanted every round as well. World Eaters into Death Guard. Yeah, that's not supposed to happen. Usually Death Guard just picks on World Eaters, so I would love to hear what actually happened in this match, because Death Guard should beat World Eaters most of the time. So not sure how that completely got flipped like that and was such a big swing in the World Eaters' favor. Quinton, 13-7 Necrons. Quinton always looks for this Necron match. Every time they play, they always pair this, and this is always the outcome, so no surprise there. And then Siegler, 14-6 the Mirror. Seems fine. Seems like he could go either way. Siegler has a little bit more trash, so he probably was able to pick on Matt a little bit more. Then Pro Tabletop into USA. The draw here, 79-81, so very, very close round overall. So Grey Knights into GSC. Yeah, we're just fine with this match. The Grey Knights generally have very good profiles and mobility into the GSC to cancel their blips and to just kill them. Now, one thing on this match that happened on turn 1 was Tyler had an opportunity to 3-inch deep strike, get capture enemy outpost, kill 2 Dread Knights, get overwhelming force maxed out, get kill 1 and kill more, and put Joe on not holding any for primary, I believe. So like a huge swing in points on turn 1. So he goes for the 3-inch deep strike. Joe overwatches, rolls 12 shots, and full wipes the demo squad, and stops all of those points from being scored. So that was a very, very big thing that could have gone in the other way in GSC's favor and pushed that score up for GSC. So you've got the Necrons. Necron Mirror here. This is just a bait for us in pairings. We will put Walter into a Necron Mirror 10 out of 10 times, no question asks. Nobody else in our team really likes playing against the court mirror. It generally just like squashes a lot of our potential big wins. So getting Walter into the mirror is usually going to be a 15 to 20 point win for Walter. His list just plays better than the court does in the mirror. And most people that play Necrons and play court don't fully grok what Walter's army is going to do with them and the amount of damage it's going to do and how fast it's going to do it. So Walter had an amazing tournament, just absolutely stomping on everybody and upsetting matches a little bit more than the wins could have been. So he played his mind out. Thomas Ultramarines into Goffs. We actually thought this could go worse than this. It's very possible that Thomas could have just ended up with like 5 points in this match. His list is more akin to anti-tank for this tournament and everything, more than it is for like these horde lists. So him going into the orcs and being able to get a 10, we are 100% happy with that. Sisters into Eldar. Me and John had a great game. It's a fine tooth comb kind of game. Like one person makes a mistake, a lot of damage can swing one way or another. When you're playing Sisters into Eldar, you have to kind of put the pressure on them to make them take all of their units out to screen you and to do damage, because the longer they can kind of sit there and like chip away at you, you're going to lose the attrition as a Sisters player. So really, really good game. He wasn't able to use the Incarn how he wanted to. One sister lived in the backfield. Incarn couldn't teleport and just disrupt my whole backfield there, and instead had to go to like the middle board and then just get mortal wounded by grenade, tank shock, and Vols fighting really fast. But yeah, it was a really good back and forth. That's just kind of how that's going to be at like a higher level of play. You're not really going to see a huge variation unless one player makes one major mistake. Then that variation might swing. If that Incarn got into the backfield, Vol would not have been able to interact with it as much, and probably would have swung this to like a 12 or 13 in his favor pretty handedly, because I'm not sure I would have been able to deal with the Incarn very well. But then you've got Jaime versus Lennon. This one was played on stream as well. If you want to watch that whole stream back, you can on Trevi's YouTube channel. Jaime thought this would be a pretty good win for him, and Lennon geeked it out 11-9. Jaime was talking about he failed a bunch of charges. That would have been really good if he would have made those. It would have, maybe turned this into his favor. But overall, an unplayed kind of game and an unknown, and Jaime just had to take the risk. And that's that. Jaime loses to John once again. Maybe one day he'll beat him. Maybe one day. Nick into Blood Angels, he kind of took this off the list. Blood Angels was kind of a bad matrix for a lot of people on our team again. So Nick took the hit here, and we're like, hey, you just got to take the Blood Angels off the table for us, and hopefully our other pairings kind of make up for it. So expected outcome on that one. Mac into Imperial Knights was a 10-10. We were expecting the Thousand Suns to come out on top a lot higher on this one. So we were expecting like 18 points on this, not a 10. So that was kind of an unexpected. And then like huge shout out to Brian for getting those points up for USA and keeping it a close game, because that is not what we were expecting to happen. And then Damien into Orcs. Anthony plays Orcs again with World Eaters, 18-2s him. There's a couple situations in this game. So first with the pairings, Damien was like, pair me into World Eaters. I was like, I'm going to first defend you. They're going to attack with Anthony. You want to take him? And he's like, yeah, I'll take him. And so it kind of is the same thing. Like it takes Anthony off the table rather than maybe hunting one of our other lists, and just puts him into Damien. And there's a couple things that could have gone in Damien's favor in this to make the points like go up a lot. Angron came back on the last turn for Anthony and got a ton of points in his favor. So yes, it's a bad match, but it is very coin flippy at the same time, because if the Orcs have a couple things go in their favor, it could be very bad for the World Eaters as well. So Anthony got the better end of the stick on this one, and got Damien, but we ended up just drawing the round, so it was okay in the end of the day. So yeah, that kind of does it. The overall standings was Art of War getting first, Per Tabletop getting second, USA getting third, and United Midwest getting fourth. So that does it for this tournament review, and hopefully we'll see all of you at the next Dreamhack when we have an open tournament. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the fun things, and we'll see you on the next one.